Hi, it's Colin Dunkley, the iPad man, and welcome to this month's webinar. This is an episode or a lesson I've been looking forward to. It's always exciting to try and help people get their photos organized. This lesson is designed to be as interactive as possible. So if you do have a question or a comment, please get involved, and maybe you can get started by letting me know if you think your photos are well organized or not. So I'll take a look at who's here already. Looks like we've got a good turnout from minute one, and obviously the statistics might take a little bit of time to come through. So if you do happen to miss the start of any of our webinars, you can replay them. And the advantage of being here live is that you get to ask questions during this lesson, whereas with a replay, obviously you're just watching what other people have asked. But at any time, if you've missed anything, just throw the question up there, and if I've got time, I will go back. So good to see Val, Judy, Dorothy, Kurt, Alice, Dorothy, Lynn, Ardley here. Hi, Dorothy, saying, no, my photos are a bit of a mess. Yeah. Welcome to the club. I think this is a pretty big club that Dorothy is in. So if you do have a question, I would like to share it with everybody. And that way, later on, we can try and timestamp this to make this lesson easier for you to come back to. So I am going to get started pretty well, as I see other people commenting about the photos not being well organized too. There is a lot to get through tonight, so I'm going to do my very best to deliver it at a good pace to get through this lesson in 1 hour. We may go a little bit over, and particularly I'll hang around at the end to answer some of your questions. If you haven't done so already, I did send an email again this afternoon. Hopefully this, yeah, you should have received an email, and there was a big orange button in it. And this big orange button, if I can make it bigger, there we go. It says download notes. So what I have done is I have got, let's get back to my main page, it'll be a bit easier to see. Where's my mouse gone? There it is. So there are notes like this that you can go along with tonight. So if you haven't printed them off already, it doesn't matter. Don't go trying to print them off now. I mean, if you can get someone to help you to go print it, great. But I'm going to go through everything in the video, and then you can always come back to these notes to just reinforce what I show you tonight. But we're going to stay pretty much on track for these notes, and please let me let me know what you think of these notes. I mean, once again, just trying to give you as many tools as possible to help you use the iPad, and particularly with photos. Now, there is a thumbs up and thumbs down symbol underneath this video. Someone out there did a thumbs down. Considering I'm here for you, that's not how we want to start. If you can let me know about tonight's show, either with a thumbs up, and particularly at the end, if you can please leave a comment just to let me know what you think of the format. So let's get stuck into the show. You can tell I do a lot of live shows. So we're going to start out by understanding the layout of the Photos app. And so here is my iPad, and at the moment when you take a look at this, depending on what you were doing last as to what you see on your iPad. Now, if you were on an individual photo, then that photo is taking up the whole screen, and you might not even see a single menu on the page. So if you ever have a single photo, all you do is touch the screen once, and it pops up with these menus giving you the ability to navigate out. So this top left corner is somewhere that we're going to spend a lot of time. We're going to go up to this top left corner a lot to always lift ourselves out of a menu or out of a page. So here I'm going to touch on that button, and that brings us to whatever menu we were within to see that one photo. In my case here, it's the Photos app. So down the bottom, you can see there's Photos, For You, Albums, and Search. And these are our 4 main navigating points for understanding the Photos app. Now, to understand this first one, this Photos tab here, this very first one, this Photos tab is the date order of your photos. So as you scroll back in time, it is always from the most recent ones down the bottom going back in time. Now this is based on the date that your camera was set at. So if you've got photos that aren't in date order, it's because maybe you used a digital SLR and the date was never set on that camera, so the date would be wrong here. Now it can be corrected, but I'm not going to be dealing with that tonight. The other reason that photos can be out of order here is when you've taken a photo of a photo. So if you've taken a photo in 2019, but this photo was from 1975, obviously it's still showing up in 2019. And so there are some apps and some strategies that we can work out later on. But to start with, this side here is the date order. The next tab is For You, where you can have memories and sharing suggestions that pop up. Apple's trying to highlight photos that it thinks would look good with some special effects and shows you stuff you've recently shared. I'm not going to spend any time on this menu tonight. The one where we're going to spend most of the time here is albums. And this is where I really do see a lot of people's photos in just an absolute mess. A lot of this mess wasn't actually caused by us. Well, indirectly it was. But back in the day, we all used a computer that suggested when we imported photos that it would separate photos into days. So we ended up with folders that said 2012_5_12. And what were you doing on the 12th of May 2012? And unless it was your birthday or something major, we just don't remember what happened on that date. So having albums organized by date is a really bad idea. The other thing that's happened is that we kind of, we create an album that we think we're going to come back to and fix up. We know that we need to deal with the blurred photos, and what happens is that life gets in the way and we just don't get around to doing it. So we've got a combination of poor imports back when we were just following the instructions. Sometimes that caused us to do a lot of duplication. But I wanted tonight go through how I structure my photos here to give you the best chance to get your photos organized as well. So you can take a look through your notes at that structure of the albums and the For You section. But tonight we are going to be spending most of the time in the albums. So immediately here for albums, when we first look at it, I'm just going to put some titles up here to help shape this show for when we split this up to make it easier for you to find. So we're now going to talk about shared albums, people, and places, as well as, no, I've missed one. Anyway, well, that's the way it goes. We are going to go get to shared albums, people, and places. So initially up the top here, you have your albums. These are your albums and your folders that you have created. And as you move down the page, you get to shared albums. This is where people have shared albums with you, or you have shared albums with other people. And then you have people and places. And this people album is going to save us a tremendous amount of work. So the fact that we do have a people album here means the idea of creating an album for Colin or creating an album for Trinity, well, we really don't need to go to that length anymore. A lot of you will have albums around people, and you've got to manually keep that up to date. So we're going to go through this shortly and show you why you don't need to worry about organizing albums by people. This machine's going to do it for you. When you scroll down a little bit further, you'll get to see your photos by media type. And so this is viewing your photos and videos by media type. And that's this section underneath the people and places. Now, this section here, we've got zero control over, absolutely none. All of this is the machine saying that this is a video, it's going into the videos album. This was a selfie, it was taken with the front camera of your phone, it's going in the selfie album. This is a live photo, it's going into the live album. This is a long exposure, it's going into long exposure. We have no control because that's the factual data about what type of photo it actually is. So if I touch on a screenshot, this is screenshots only. I can't do anything to take it out of a screenshot because it is a screenshot. If I touch on portrait, these are all portrait photos. They were taken in the portrait mode of the iPhone camera. That's the type of photo it is. So I can't add or remove to portrait. That's the machine making the selection on our behalf. So all of this down here, you've got no control over, so don't try and fight it. You're going to work with that section. Okay, so now I'm going to come back up to the top and take a look at this section here, which is called My Albums. And this My Albums section, well, it's kind of strange because in this first view, you have an album in the top left that's called All Photos or Camera Roll. And then you may have a favorites, and my favorites is down here. And then you'll have a list of albums or folders. And in this initial view, you can scroll from right to left to see more albums or more folders. So we can't see all of our albums on the page at once, and it's sharing the iPad screen with shared albums and people and places. So for the most of this lesson, I'm going to suggest that you touch See All. Now, when you touch on See All in that top right corner, now we can no longer move right to left. See what I mean by it's a bit inconsistent. Now you can move up and down. So as you build more and more albums, they'll actually go down the page. Now, one thing you'll notice about my collection here is that I have these crosses going across a lot of my screen. And some of them are totally blank and others have little icons on them. Now, if there is a cross, it means that it is a folder and not an album. Okay, so it's a folder, not an album. And I'm going to try and encourage you to use folders more, but not overuse them, because what happens is that we do tend to bury our photos. So I want you to try and understand the difference between folders and albums and its limitations. So I'm going to quickly just stop to see if you have any questions as I go along, because this is quite one-sided at the moment where I'm telling you a lot, and I'd like to get your feedback. Maybe if you can let me know. There is a chat section. It should be on that side. No, I've got it wrong twice. That side, the right-hand side. There should be a little chat window, and you should be able to put a comment in there so I can get an idea about what's happening. Let's see, what have we got here? Frozen little circle going round and round. Hopefully that has been sorted by now. Maybe if you can let me know. Dorothy, you're the only one who's reported that so far. Hopefully it's not blocking this for everybody. So I want to show you first my structure, and then I'm going to wipe my structure out and build it from scratch just to show you how easy it is to rebuild. So when we're first looking at this structure, I have gone to the lengths of, you can see here, if we take out this bottom folder, because this is my to-do folder, and I'm going to come back to that type of stuff later on. So if you take a look at my overall settings here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 folders. And if we count this one there, 12. That's the most. That's the most you ever want to have. I want to be able to see my entire collection of photos on one page. Then I structure them around how can I think big? If you were to come over and I was to sit down with a bottle of wine and show you a slideshow and show you an album, that album has to be substantial enough to warrant the glass of wine and a slideshow. There's no point having an album with 5 photos in it. You wouldn't open up an album off the bookshelf and open it up and have this 20-page photo album and only have 5 photos in it. So you need to think bigger in the way that you're structuring your photos on the iPad or iPhone. So here, let's take a look. I've got animals, which I kind of only do for fun for lessons. I don't really care about having albums albums for animals. I have around homes. I've lived in multiple places, and there are lots of photos that they're nothing special. They were just something, a sunrise on the Sunshine Coast, a barbecue just on a Friday night in Sydney. So I have any homes that I've lived at, I separate into my Perth homes with some Perth events. I have Sunshine Coast with Sunshine Coast events, and I have Sydney with Sydney events. So things that I was doing when I was living in those 3 places. I have birthdays, and if I touch on birthdays, we've got Charlotte's birthdays, my birthdays, my dad's birthdays, Max's birthdays, other birthdays, Tian's birthdays, Tiffany's birthdays, and so I can touch on Tiffany's birthdays, and here it's got the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 20th birthdays. Obviously, I've got a bit more work to do in adding birthdays in here. Celebrations. I keep concerts, Australia Day, Christmas, New Year's Eve, weddings. I keep all of those in a folder called celebrations. Family, so I can have photos of the family if I choose to. Friends, which I don't think I've actually put anything in. It's not that I don't have any friends. I just normally don't structure my albums around friends, more around events, I guess. So I have not actually used that. But you might like having an album there just for friends. Harvey Norman from my work days. Holidays and trips. So if I want to show anyone any of my holidays, I can go straight to holidays and trips. Here are holidays to Asia, caravan trip, holidays to the USA, touch USA, SeaWorld, Disneyland, Hollywood, Las Vegas. So you can see I can really drill down to my photos quite quickly, and I don't have to go too many levels deep. I'm starting with this overall view of around about 10 main folders, and I know if it's a holiday in Bali that I'm going to holidays and trips Asia and Bali, and there's all the Bali trips. So it's a logical sequence to find my photos. So what do you think so far of this layout? I've got iPad lessons, or my iPad lessons business folders. I've got scenic shots for those shots that are cloudy days, scenic storms, sunrises and sunsets, waterfalls, those type of generic photos we take a lot of, but then they're kind of lost. We take the beautiful photo of a sunrise or a beautiful photo of a waterfall, and they're in amongst all these other photos, and we never look at an album just of all of these beautiful scenic things. So if you can just let me know in the comments again, and look, I'm here for you. So if you're not responding to me, I just have to keep plowing forward, guessing that I'm doing okay, or that this is the direction the lesson's going. Please, you can leave those comments. So just give me any feedback at all. Type in that chat section. I think it says chat. In fact, here we go. Here's another iPad I've got open. There is the live broadcast, and here are the chats. And so down the bottom it says chat publicly as whoever you are. So this is in the YouTube app on the iPad. So if you didn't open up the YouTube app this time, maybe next time you will, but certainly I'm sure that there is a chat option somewhere. As I cut half my head off, there's a chat option somewhere. Please, please, please give me feedback here. So we've got Dorothy saying it's all good, getting it, and Julianne saying that it's a great layout. So once again, please, I know there's scores. I think there's more than 70 people tuned in at the moment and 2 people commenting. Come on, tap, 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 tap. Give me some feedback. Okay, so now what I'm going to do off the screen here, I'm going to try and wipe out all of, and I might not be able to actually. It looks like my Photos app is doing some syncing from work I was doing earlier on. So I was going to wipe out all of these folders so that you could see me start from scratch with this being blank. But you're just going to have to trust me that now we're going to pretend it was blanked out, and I'm going to show you how to set up folders and then put albums inside them. So let's have a guess at the next slide. Let's see, the next comment up here is that's what we've been doing, the See All Albums view. Understanding folders and albums, that's just what we've been covering off. And now an example, well, an example of a folder within a folder, that is just what I showed you here of, here is a folder of holidays, and then this is a folder of Asia, and then we have an album of Thailand inside it. Okay, so that's an album that's inside a folder, inside that folder, inside the folder. So you can see and understand the hierarchy of folders and albums. So what we're going to do now, if I get the right slide, there we go, add a new album or folder. This is what we're here to understand. So first thing is, whatever you've done in the past, you don't have to try and add and remove and tinker with it. If you're unsure, I'm going to show you that you can just smash your way through this with confidence without having to be going back and forth, have I added that photo or not? But I'm going to start off by getting back to this view where, sorry, we go all the way back to the very top here. So I kept hitting the back button to the very top until you see that plus. Now, when you see that plus, you can touch that plus and look at the 2 choices that we get. New album, new shared album. Where is new folder? It's missing in action here. It's kind of crazy that we don't have new folder. So if we touch See All, we can't see a plus. You actually need to touch the word Edit. Now you can see a plus. When you touch on plus, we can see new album, new folder. So my recommendation when you're getting things organized is to don't do it from this top view where we can see people and places and all these other things. Touch See All, touch Edit, and now we have a plus. You hit the plus, new folder. New folder, what are we going to call it? Well, I might call this one, I'm going to call everything AA, just to bring it up to the top for today. So AA, and I'll call this one Holidays. Done. And so now you can see it's created a folder called Holidays, and you can see it's got a plus. It's kind of, it's not really a plus, it's just breaking up a grid to say that there's things inside, albums inside. So whilst I'm here, I'll hit plus and hit new folder, and this one I'll call AA and call it Celebrations. Celebrations, there we go, save. And now it's sitting up the top here. And we can hit In fact, I'm going to hit done just to finish these off. If you do happen to be up here where the plus symbol is, you can actually hold your finger down on the plus. And if you hold it for a few seconds, then new folder pops up there as well. So look at that. If we tap plus, it just gives us the two options. But if we hold our finger down on it, it gives us the three options. Bit silly, huh? So once again, I can do new folder there, and I could do AA, and I'll call this one animals. Save. So the idea here when you're getting your photos organized is to do folders first, because here is this album called Perth, and if I touch edit, I can move it around, but I cannot put it inside a folder. Look at that. Everything just shuffles out of the way. So if you go and create all albums here, we've got no way to get them inside the folder. So well, actually there is a way, and I am going to show it to you later on. It's just not simple. That we should be able to just drag it in. And you can see we can't. So I'm going to show you later on how, if you do accidentally create an album out here, or if you already have created albums that are not sitting inside folders, I'm going to show you how you can get it inside. So what I'd suggest you do, get started with the folders. And let's say here, let me do one, and I'll do one more folder called new folder, and I'm going to call this AA around, I'll just call this AA Perth, just to save time, because you've gotten the idea, haven't you, of what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to call that AA Perth and hit done. So here's an album of Perth 2002. Here's a folder called AA Perth. So what I ought to have done is open the folder first. It then says it's an empty folder. This folder contains no albums. So at this point, crazily, we need to touch edit. Tap on edit, and now we can hit plus, and now I can add a new album. And this album I'm going to call Perth 2002, save. And then it says, well, add photos to Perth 2002. Well, we could be here for a while, scrolling back in time, looking for 2002. I could touch the back button. Now it's in a collections view. I can touch it into the years mode, and now I can zip back in time. So I'm saving a little bit of time. I can come back here to 2002, and then I can drill back down to these photos of Perth, in 2002. And to add these photos to the album, you can just touch on them, but that would be awfully slow. Slide your finger along. Look at that. Look how quick and easy it is just to slide your finger along and add these photos. So I can just slide my finger, and then once I'm finished, I can tap on the word done. And now it has created an album with 68 photos in it. I tap done. It creates an all photos album. This confuses a lot of people. This all photos album is eventually going to represent all of the photos that you put inside the folder. So this is a folder called Perth. Here's Perth 2002. I might choose to add a new album called Perth, Australia Day, and hit save. And I could add the photos. And once again, you can see here, this is going to be a pretty slow way to continually add photos. If we have to pop back in here and just find these photos, here's Australia Day, I can select these photos and hit done. And now we've created another album. So you can see here, these are now 2 albums in Perth. This album here represents everything in those 2. But they're sitting inside my folder called Perth. So that's one way that you could start getting your photos organized, doing a tremendous amount of scrolling back and forth and, you know, jumping inside the folder and then hunting for the photos. But I want to flip that on its head. I want to think about it the other way. And the other way is to go to the photos first and then add them into an album, because you can see if you start within the folder and then you start to build the album and then you have to go hunt for the photos, it's just everything's in reverse and you're taking too long, and it's open for errors and mistakes, and it's just tough. So I tend to flip it the other way, and I will go search for the photos first and then put them within the folders and albums. So I'm just going to check with my notes, because what I want to do is make sure that we're keeping this kind of in the order of the notes. So it's difficult because the notes can be a bit, they're a great tool when you're working back through them, but with the flow of a lesson like this, sometimes I've got to bend the flow of these notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I go about building albums in a much, much faster way. So the first thing is that what we have down the bottom here is an incredible amount of flexibility in the way that we can look at our photos. And the first one here, if we start on the left-hand side, is photos in date order. And if you go back all the way to the very start of your photos, you might choose to just start at the top here and work your way down, putting your photos into albums. So here I can take a look and see, here is Burn back in 1986. So I could, whilst I'm back here, I can touch the word select in the top right corner, and I can just select my photos from Switzerland, keep going down until they stop, because they will tend to be in date order. There'll be a starting point of your trip and a finish point of your trip. So I've just started at the top and gone to the bottom. I can now hit, because I hit select first and then I ran my finger over them, I can now hit add to. But you know that I haven't created the Switzerland album yet. But what I did do was organize the holidays folder. So I'm going to start by opening up the holidays folder and look at what is here. New album, Switzerland. And I might call this 1986 just because I can. Save. And so now it throws me back in time. I can see, oh, here's a trip to Bali. This might be a drunken trip. I'll try and do this one pretty quick. So I'll just zip through, running my fingers down until I get to the end of Bali. Add to holidays, new album, Bali, 1999, save. And it throws me back to the end of Bali. I can now see these next ones are Perth. I'll hit select. Here's Perth in 1999, and it's still 1999, and I'll do it to there and hit add to Perth, new album, Perth, 1999. Now, I normally don't do it by year. I normally will do it by event. I'll be saying, I'll be getting it organized. I just want to show you how quickly you can go all the way back to the start and work your way through. Here's a Bali, a second trip. I was fortunate enough to go to Bali twice in a year there. And so I can select the photos, add to holidays, new album, Bali, 1999, trip 2, save. Once again, that's all sitting inside this new album I created, AA Holidays, and look at how quickly we can build it. So that's one strategy you can use. Using the Photos tab here, going back in time and just moving forward and adding photos inside of the folders you've already created, because as you open a folder, it's going to present you with the opportunity to create a new album when you're doing it from that add side. So what do you think about that so far as a good way to revisit whatever album structure you have? So once again, let me know in the comments section what you think of this so far, because here is the kicker. This is going to blow a lot of people's minds. This section right now, what I'm about to show you, is what confuses so many people. Right now, you've forgotten where you got up to in adding these photos. And you don't know if you added all of these photos of Switzerland, or you don't know if you added all of the photos of Bali. Well, guess what? If you're unsure, just add it again. Watch this. I'm going to touch select. I'm going to select all of these Switzerland photos again. And I'm going to hit add to, holidays, Switzerland. Now let's look at that album of Switzerland. It's still the same. You don't duplicate photos. You can add the same photo to the same album 20 times. It will only be there once. Look at that photo of me snowboarding. Here I'll go to photos. I will select this photo. I will add it to this album again. It's still only here once. Here, I'll touch on Switzerland. It's still only here once. You can't accidentally duplicate or triplicate or quadruplicate your photos as you're working through and getting them organized. If you have some photos that are split over time and you're just not sure, have I added those or not? Add them again. It's not going to duplicate them. So what do you think about that? How many people have been scared about duplicating photos? So as I said, this is one strategy, but there is another strategy which I think is way, way, way better. And I'm just going to see if I can get the right note. So I put the right heading on the screen. Hopefully I'm doing the right thing here. Which one have I got? No, I've done that one already. This is the one I'm after. What number is that? It is number 11. Let's go to number 11, which is there. So what I want to talk about now is the power of search. So the power of search is absolutely phenomenal on your iPad, and it can change the way you build albums. So you'll notice before that I created a folder called AA Animals. Okay, and if I open up AA Animals, you can see here it is empty. So what if I went to search? I mean, you've all got photos of pets, don't you? Photos of dogs, photos of cats, photos of animals at the zoo. Just use this as an example for practice, just to show you how easy this is. You can touch on search, and up the top here, it says search, photos, people, places. And when you touch up here, I'm just now going to type dog. And it has found 95 photos of dogs. I'll hit see all, and it might get a few wrong, but in general, it's going to do a pretty good job of getting this right. There might be occasional errors where it might misjudge an animal. But already here, just by typing dog, this one doesn't look like, oh yeah, look at that, it's a grainy photo, and it even, oh no, they're sheep. Sheep dogs? Pretty close. So I can see that one's not a dog, but I can hit select in the top right corner. I won't touch the first photo. Sorry, my hand looks to be a bit behind the video there. I'm going to start here. I'm just going to slide my finger, run it all the way down to the bottom. Notice I just held my finger there. I didn't drag. I just slid my finger and just held it down the bottom, and the page just selected all of these photos with dogs in it. I then hit add to. I touch the AA Animals here. New album. I'm going to call this album Dogs. Save. I now have created an album under the animals folder called Dogs, and now look at all of that, all the photos of dogs in here. And if you see one that's not, you say there's no dogs in here, here's where we're all dressed up quite funny. So this particular photo, there's no dogs in it. So how do we remove it? Well, you touch select, you touch the photo, and you tap delete. But be careful here, when you touch delete, there are two options. Remove from album or delete. So which one do we want to touch? If you touch delete, it will delete that photo not just from this album, but from everywhere. Everywhere that that photo exists on your iPad, it will disappear. So there are no dogs in that photo. I'm just going to remove from the album. The photo will stay on my iPad, but now it has been removed from my dogs album within animals. So once again, I'm going to come to search. I'll go touch search. This time I'm going to type cat. And there's 41 photos of cats. Now, once again, we've got a few errors. I guess these count. Meerkats. The meerkats make it in my book. So we've got photos of meerkats. A tiger. Look at this. It's picked up a cat in a photo on a wall. Look at the cat in the background here. I mean, how good is this? It's got a monkey. Okay, so it's going to get this one's wrong. So I can see we've got a monkey wrong, but then we've got the cat chasing the fish, cat dressed as Santa. I mean, I've just searched. It's found the cats. I hit select. I can select all of the photos. Now, once again, I'm letting my finger run all the way over it. Now, here's a little trick. It's easier to select them all and then come back and say, that's not a cat because it's a photo of a frame. And I think there was another one that, oh, the monkey. That's not a cat, it's a monkey. So it was easier for me to hit select, choose all of the photos, and then uncheck the two that I didn't want, rather than going tap, 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 don't tap, 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 tap. Who taps? Who does all the tapping? Let me know. Who out there goes tap, 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 tap? Once again, please, I'm here for you. And I might have to throw this on Facebook if you're not careful, because I need more comments. I know there's lots of you watching. Let me know in the chat section what you're thinking, please. Just give me some feedback. Let me know how you're going with this lesson. And I can see here there are a few wows. Judy's got wow. Ardley saying, just what I needed, thanks. Val's getting it, yes. Don's saying, that makes makes it absolutely beautiful. Kerry's going, hooray, hooray, hooray. Oh, I'm not sure what that's in relation to. I've missed the context of it. I think Siri must have been listening there. Kathleen says she's got duplicated photos in photos that I've moved into albums. I guess I'll have to start again. I'll deal with truly duplicated photos later, because they've possibly come in from a Windows computer or Windows environment where they've been duplicated. But by putting photos into, it's very difficult to get duplicate photos into an album unless there were 2 copies of the photo imported into the iPad to start with. So I'll double check on that for you. But once again, Bev's saying my hubby taps. And yes, good to see him getting some, lots of tappers. Thank you. And Janice says, I'm loving this. I'm glad you are. This is really, this is a great opportunity to reinforce this lesson. We have done this lesson face to face, but obviously not everyone can get to Buderim. Not everyone's from Buderim. This enables us to teach this lesson to people anywhere in the world. And, if you've got a question, please ask it. Because here's Judy, who's just put up a comment, which is probably going to be common for a lot of you, that she was just too busy making albums to stop to think about organizing the folders. So you make all of these albums and you scatter all these albums, and then you're trying to find stuff. And the problem with albums is that one day we call it Bali 1999 and the next time we call it 1999 Bali. And so it's not even in order. And if you're trying to do it alphabetically, or it's just really hard to manage. Folders is the secret. So here once again, I hit add to, I touch on the folder of animals, I touch new album, and I call it cats and hit save. So that's pretty powerful. We've gotten to add some animals to the folders. But let's go back to adding photos of Perth. Because of course, if you go down to search, guess what you can search for? Places. So here I can type Perth and hit search, and there are 1,400 photos from my life in Perth. So I might try and narrow that down. I might call that Perth 2001, and there you go. I've hit a limitation. Maybe I didn't have any photos in 2001, but I will try and find other ways. Maybe I want East Perth as photos, and there's 607 photos from East Perth. So now once again, I could hit select and I could just run my finger over and select, and look where my finger is. It's just staying put. I'll try and get my body out of the way. See, it's just staying put there, scrolling down. I'm not moving. My finger is just resting. I started in the top left and I'm just resting my finger and patiently waiting for it to get down the bottom. Most of you are still tapping and you're probably at line number 3. So there I've just selected over 600 photos. I touch add to, and I can touch here and hit new album, all Perth, save. Very quickly, I've been able to get that organized. Search is really powerful too. You can search by date. So here I can touch in search and I could say October 2016, search. Here are 557 photos from October 2016. Now I know I went on a cruise, so I can touch see all. I can scroll down. There's the start of the cruise here. I can touch select. It's in date order. I just run my finger down until I get to, this is going from the 1st to the 31st of October. And I know it got pretty close to the end of October. And, I'm just being patient. See how it's just scrolling down? Patience is the key here. You need to be patient. I took a lot of photos. Okay. As I get down to the bottom, there we go. And bring it back to Brisbane, which is to there. Add to AA holidays, new album, cruise, I might call it, cruise, Pacific 2016, save. And there you go. I've been able to use search to find a date that I knew I did a trip and just pick the start point and the end point. I know everything in the middle is the cruise, and I've very quickly got in making a huge dent in the organization of my photos. So is this making sense to you? Is this a great way to get stuck into creating albums? I think that most people we've never been shown how to organize our photos properly, and probably the software we used to have on a computer didn't display these photos well. So we were just trying to organize them as best we could, but then they were kind of stuck in these blue folders or yellow folders, and we didn't really have a great way to look at the photos. But I want to just show you how clever this is, and I'm going to pick a small album. I would more likely do the cruise, because that's the type of photos I would normally be sharing, but I'm going to pick one of the ones with the animals in it. Where was animals? That one there. Let's pick something that's a bit small. Let's pick cats. So I'm going to touch on the cats album. The benefit of you taking the time to get your photos organized like this is that once you have an album, you can touch on this arrow in the top right corner. And when you touch on this arrow, it makes a movie. That's how simple it is. I now hit play. It now is downloading any movies from the cloud. So hopefully this does not impact the broadcast because I'm broadcasting live from my study. And right now I'm having to download these photos because not all of my photos are on my device. The master copies are stored in the cloud. I haven't looked at the photos of cats probably ever. And right now I've said, make me a movie about my cats. So this might take a minute. So whilst that's downloading and getting ready to start, throw any questions my way. I'm just going to check in with the comments and chats that you're doing and grab a sip of water. Please enter your comments because I've still got something even better to show you in a minute. So throw some questions at me. I'll answer those and then I'll show you some. Oh, there you go. Here's this video playing. Look at it. It's timing it to music. It's making it look professional. I'll grab a drink. Oh. Oh, yeah, look at Punce. That looked like a guinea pig, not a cat, but anyway. Oh, and look, it even incorporates video. And I don't know if there's a cat in there, but anyway. Oh, and there's a monkey, and then 2 more cats. So you can see, when it does this, it gives you the opportunity to spot the mistakes anyway, which you can go back and correct. But we've gone from doing a search to creating an album to playing a slideshow that brings back laughs and memories, and all with a handful of touches. The majority of you who have ever bothered to try and make a movie know how much work it takes. You could spend hours, if not days, making a movie. And here you are just with a couple of touches to see a movie come to life. Okay, so let's take a look. Bev says, how good is search? I know, right? It is unbelievable. Ardley saying, this is wonderful. Don Noon says, note to self, ensure location services are on. And he is spot on with that advice. I just have helped a client restore 17,000 photos they lost when their computer died. And they are in an electrical industry, but no one had shown them about location services. In fact, people had told them, turn it off because people can track you, which they can't. So 17,000 photos, and they'd be lucky if there were 200 of them that could show up on a map. So please, please, please make sure location services are on your phone so that your photos show up on a map. It's really, really good. Bev says, is the movie like a slideshow? It's better than a slideshow, Bev. So if we were to go to these cats here, you notice that when I touch the arrow and hit play, it starts playing. I'll just turn that volume down a bit. So here's one photo of the meerkat. Then it goes on to the next lot of photos. But how many photos of meerkats did I have? I had 3. It was smart enough to ignore similar photos. This is how clever this system is. You don't have to worry about if you've got 2 similar photos, 3 similar photos, 7 similar photos. Put all your photos in from start to finish. The system is going to ignore similar photos when you play it back as a movie. But if I was to touch slideshow, which is up the top here, I hit slideshow, it's now going to play. Oh, look at how dirty my screen's gotten into. It's just going to play every photo for 4 seconds. So in order. So there's, oh, now I'm in a different mode. I'm in origami mode or folding mode, but it played the 3 photos in a row. So slideshows can be really good if you're wanting to make sure you see every last photo. But if you've got 400 photos in the album, you're not going to sit there, nor are the people watching it, especially when you took 17 photos of the sunset. you would then get 17 shots in a row of the sunset. Whereas when you use this movie option, it won't do the 17 photos of the sunset. It will just pick 1 or 2 if you have that many. Okay, so it's really, really powerful. So what I want to try and encourage you to do, get your folders, pick a structure of folders, and then start by looking at your photos or using search. Search is a great way to get started. And start bringing albums inside of your folders. To explain why some are grey, if there are no albums inside, it will be grey. If, say this holidays and trips one, this is my genuine one that has all of my holidays and trips in it. This only has folders within the folder. So there's no albums, it's not showing any pictures. If I touch this folder, you'll see it's only folder, 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 folder. There's no albums here. When you can see the images, that means that there's an album inside the folder. Okay, so this has got 2 albums, this one's got 1 album, this one's got 4 or more, this one's got 3, this one's got 4 or more, 4 or more. Okay, so when you see the images, that means there's albums inside the folders. If there's nothing, you need to check, like this one genuinely has nothing in it, but this one shows nothing because there are no albums, but there are plenty more folders. So be careful if you're ever going to delete a blank grey square, just make sure you don't have anything inside it. So a couple of things before we finish up. One is, what's the best way to move photos? So as an example here, I've already got this one called Perth 2002. So I'm going to make a slight change here. I'm going to touch edit and just touch on the name. And then I can just call this Perth. I'll just call it Perth. Okay, so there's one lesson. How easy is it to change the name of an album? Just touch edit and just touch the name of the album. But secondly, we want to get this Perth 2002 inside this folder. So how do you do it? Well, the best way is to start with the album that you want to move inside. You know, we can't drag it. We established that earlier. I touch the album. I'll hit select. I'll then touch select all. I've selected all of the photos with one touch. I'll do that again. Select, select all, add to, Perth, new album, Perth 2002, save. And so now, here's the album Perth 2002 with 12 photos. If I open this up, it says Perth 2002. The album is duplicated, the photos are not. The photos still only exist once, so we haven't doubled up on the amount of photos. We've just got 2 different ways of looking at them. But ideally, we don't want this here anymore because we have technically moved it inside by remaking it inside. Does that make sense? I've remade the album inside that. I didn't move it, I remade it. To get rid of this one, I touch edit, touch the minus key, and hit delete photo. I delete album. And there you go, the album's gone. I come into this album, you can still see Perth 2002 and the 12 photos are there. I didn't delete the photos, I didn't delete this other album. So you can re-watch this video to get that tip again. You can also look at, I've got videos within the iPad Man online school where you don't have to watch an hour's worth just to watch how to move a photo. You can just watch the little video that it's broken down. So I'm going to do one more tip before we finish, and that is under search. This is a fantastic feature. Under search, well, obviously, actually, there's 2 things I need to cover off here. One, under albums, you've got the People album. So you need to go and open the People album and you need to give the faces names. Okay, so you literally would touch on the face and touch up the top here and add the name. Okay, it's really, really simple to do. And I've got video instructions inside the course that tell you how to name the People folder if you've forgotten, okay? So you've got to go through and just let the iPad search for the faces, recognize the faces, and add them to your device. Now, once it has done that, it will keep adding those faces automatically. You don't really have to do it again. But the power of this is, let's say you want to organize some photos which just have you and your spouse or you and your daughter. So you can come to search, under search, type your name. So here I type Colin, and you'll notice that next to my name is a picture of a silhouette, and that means it's a facial recognition search result. I'll touch on Colin Dunkley, and immediately it's saying there's also 684 photos where I am with Trinity. So I can touch there and hit search, and here are 684 photos where every single last photo has myself and Trinity. There will not be a single photo in that entire collection that Trinity and I are not both in. And you can do this with anybody who's been added to those faces. So I can put Tian, and there are 478 photos that Tian and I are in every single one of these photos. So when you're looking for that great photo of the two of you together, it's really easy for you to find if you've let the people album, if you've named the people in the album, and then you use search. And of course, with that search result, you can hit select. You could go through, whoops. See, I do hit wrong keys as well. Open up photos. You can go to the top here. You can hit select. You can search all of these photos, add them all, select them all, and add them to an album which is you and your partner or you and your kids. I mean, it is just absolutely incredible how easy this becomes when we let the machine do the work for us. I mean, I'm not having to go hunting through all of my photos. I hit add to, and I'll call this new album Colin and Tian. Save, and there's an album now created called Colin and Tian, 478 photos, and we're in every single one of those photos. So it is just so simple when you use the tools. So I hope that this lesson has been valuable to you. We've just cracked over the 1 hour mark. So let me know in the chat section, and please, if you haven't been able to chat, because I know there are so many people watching, but there's only a handful of people chatting. So if you haven't been able to chat, please send me an email. And in fact, I'll try and send you another video during the next couple of, in fact, it's probably going to be 3 weeks. Before the next webinar, I will send you a video to make sure you know how to do the chat, that you've signed into YouTube and that you can leave the chat, because it makes such a big difference when I'm able to put information on the screen. Now, for those, there was a question someone was asking, Janine was asking, where is location services in settings? It's under privacy, location services, and then camera. So that is when you go to settings, you come down to privacy, location services, and even if location services says it's on, you touch it anyway, and you make sure that the camera says while using the app. So whenever you're using the camera, it can register where you are. And you've got to do that on your phone. That's probably the device that you're using to take photos with. And Don's, does Polar Sets require albums or folders to import from? No, but it makes it a lot easier to import if you've created an album. Otherwise, you are endlessly hunting through thousands of photos. And you can appreciate, look at how many photos I have. There are a lot of photos here. We've got 40,000, 37,700, whoops, and nearly 4,000 videos. And here are some of these new videos I'm recording for iOS 13 and iPadOS 13. So lots of new videos coming, everyone. Please be patient with me. Finally, Apple today updated their software. I have not been able to record for about 4 days. Apple broke the software on me, so it's been tough to record the last 4 days has been just pulling my hair out. See, it's thinner. So I'm starting recording again today. iOS 13 will be released, we believe, Monday week. Please don't update the first day it comes out. In fact, I'm recommending waiting until October, waiting until version 13.1. I'm already testing 13.1, and that was where the bugs were fixed. There have been so many bugs in version 13. Please, I recommend waiting till 13.1. And by then we will have all new videos. So if you find an error in the existing course, don't worry about it. In a few weeks' time, it all changes and you'll get access to our new video lessons, specially made for iPad OS and iOS 13. Okay, so just going to check and see if there's any last questions here before I call it an evening. Oh, don't want to take my face out. Let's see if I can make that a little bit smaller across. There we go. Rewatch and check notes as well. What do you think of the notes, everybody? Let me know what you think about the notes. I think they make a huge difference. Lynn, thanks, Colin. Great lesson. You're welcome. David, thanks. You enjoyed the lesson. Yep, good on you. Thank you for letting me know. And Janice, have to practice these tips. Yeah, go do it. If not today, do it tomorrow. Put this into action straight away. Get some wins under your belt. Love Jupiter. Yeah, it's a great shot. That's just this week from the Hubble, I think. So, yeah, not from one of the satellites near Jupiter, but from Hubble. Great shot. Janine says, how often are Thursday night classes? They are the first Thursday of the month. So the next one, I think, is the 6th of October. I'll have to check to make sure the date's right. And the next lesson, the next webinar is what's new in iPad OS. So everything that's new, well, actually, it will probably be split over a couple of weeks or over October and November. I won't be able to fit it all in an hour. In fact, I won't even be able to fit it all in 2. So I'm going to pick the best or biggest changes in iPad OS for the next webinar. So, and we'll send out the registration process for you. So, Don, do you suggest that automatic updates are turned on or turned off to ensure it doesn't download the new update immediately? Don, I probably would say yes to that. It won't normally jump from version 12 to version 13, even if you do have automatic on. It's too big a jump. It makes us do them manually. But I would turn it off just to make sure, because I've got to tell you, the bugs in the first release were incredibly frustrating. You can just talk to Tian about me just yelling and screaming, and I'd get halfway through a video and then the keyboard would freeze, and it's oh, and Tian says it's the 2nd of October, not the 6th. And I'll be broadcasting from the UK. Now, the only reason we may not broadcast on that date is if our daughter has a baby that day. So that's the caveat. As long as the baby comes on time and is not late, this broadcast will be on time. If you hear a baby crying in the background, you'll know why. But it will be broadcast from the UK, but it will be 7:30 Brisbane time on the 2nd. Judy, I've really enjoyed this lesson. I'm glad you did. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you. It makes, as I said, it makes a really big difference. Have a great trip and hope the grandchild arrives safely. So do we. I'm sure it will. Everything is going sweet at the moment. And Dorothy says, can I see this? No, I can't see it, Dorothy, so I don't know what the problem is. If there's an individual issue, obviously I'll try and deal with that on an individual basis. Kathleen says, did not receive the email link to the download today. It should have arrived at about 4 o'clock, Kathleen. I will double check. If you didn't get it, we'll send it again. But just check your spam folder. It definitely was sent. I know enough. Our machine actually tells us that they're all delivered. So just check again and make sure that it's there. But if not, we have no problem at all in getting that to you. And now I'm told it's Thursday the 3rd. Is it the 2nd or the 3rd? I'm not even going to. What is the first Thursday in October?
The first Thursday is on the 3rd of October, 2019.
There you go. It's very rare that Tian's wrong. I'm not going to, I can't end on that, can I? No way. Much better streaming via YouTube. Yeah, Don, it is. It was really good. Yep, and Tian said, yep, it is on the Thursday. So for anyone who didn't get the notes, Alice and Kurt are saying they didn't get the notes. There was an email that came through. It would have been this afternoon. There it is. There it came. So when was that sent? It was sent at 4:05 p.m. Okay, at 4:05, and it just has this big orange button there that says download notes. So just go check your emails again and just click on that download notes. When you click on that download notes, it will take you to a new web page, and on that page will be, when it eventually downloads, the notes that you can save. So I'll leave that for you to check later on. Once again, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. This is when you are commenting, it makes a big difference to the interaction between us. I just don't want to be a one-way, me shoving it down one way. I want to be here answering your questions and getting your feedback to make these lessons really worthwhile. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you don't mind, I'll send out a testimonial request in the next day or two, just for some, what's more of a feedback request, just to get some feedback from you about tonight's lesson. I look forward to seeing you either on Facebook Live, in the Facebook group, which I'm going to get far more active in. I've been very lazy there, so accept my apologies. There's a private Facebook group for members. I'm going to get very active in there, as well as getting stuck into all of these new videos. So hope to see you again soon. Thanks for tuning in. If you've got any questions that you didn't get answered here, please feel free to send it through to questions@ipadlessons.com.au, and we will get back to you. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. It must be time for me to go. Let's see if I can get this. That's the wrong screen. See, I can easily make the same mistakes as everybody else. I'm sure that I have a sign-off page. Anyway, wherever it is, it'll be somewhere. There it is. We're all wrapped up. See you later, everyone.